I'd like to show you a little bit about headspace and how the headspace is measured. There's several ways of doing it. They all work fairly well. Before I show you my digital headspace gauge, I'll show you how the rest of the industry measures and defines what headspace is. A set of headspace gauges, they're called go and no-go gauges. The way they work is you drop them in your chamber. This one's supposed to go, this one's supposed to not fit. So that's why they get the name go, no-go gauges. This is a case gauge. This is designed to measure your case and make sure that it's within the high side and the low side of this ridge. It lets you know that your headspace is within industry standards. Okay, here are three different types of cartridges. This is a belted magnum. The headspace is set on the belt on this with factory ammunition. However, when you hand load this cartridge, you need to headspace on the shoulder. In other words, the shoulder is contacting or real close to contacting the chamber. The factory ammunition, like I say, headspace is where it contacts the shoulder back here on the belt. Okay, here's a different type of a case. This is a non-rimmed case. This is a 308, and it headspaces on the shoulder. There is no belt on this one. Here's a popular 30-30 case. It headspaces on the rim. In other words, the headspace is space at the head. The clearance you have between the breech of your rifle and the head of the case itself. But it's important for the hand loader to also measure the shoulder on any one of these cases, whether it's belted magnum or non-rimmed or a rimmed case like the 30-30. You always need to hand load where you know where the shoulder is located. You don't want to bump the shoulder, have it be so long that it doesn't even fit in your chamber, and you don't want to have it pushed back too far, because if it's pushed back too far, every time you fire the round, it has to expand to fill up the chamber, and it's stretching the case unnecessarily. Every time you reload it and every time you fire it, it's stretching the case, and that creates problems for your brass. It shortens the life of the case. Okay, this is our digital headspace gauge designed to measure your hand loads at the shoulder and compare that to your particular chamber. When you're setting this gauge up, a few tips here. You need to make sure that you have clearance above the gauge at the stem. The stem goes right through the gauge, and it provides uniform downward pressure, which is a very nice feature. It helps you get repeatable readings. You want to make sure this doesn't bottom out. You set the height of the gauge with this lock screw right here. Once you get the height while you're on the shoulder that gives you this much clearance, you're all set. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to be somewhere near the center of your shoulder. It doesn't have to be right on the datum line or any specific place, just anywhere on the shoulder, because it's going to match your chamber perfectly. This is the way that you set the thing up. You put a fired case in your gauge. Make sure it's sitting flat. It's best with no primer in there, and it'll sit real flat for you on this nice big base. Then what you want to do is you want to hit your 0 button. Okay, now it'll remember the exact chamber size that you have, because when you have a fired case, it's like a casting. It represents your chamber perfectly. So now that it knows exactly what your chamber is, you can check out one of your hand loads and see how they fit at the shoulder. Set it down there. You can see this one is set up to 1.5 thousandths below, so that's giving you 1.5 thousandths clearance in your chamber with this hand load. That's absolutely perfect. A lot of times when you resize with a conventional die, you wind up pushing the shoulder back as much as 6 to 10 thousandths of an inch. Some belted magnum dies even push the case back as much as 15 thousandths, and you only need 1 or 2 thousandths. So that's how close it is. Our digital headspace gauge has another purpose. It can also help you measure the jump to the rifling that your bullet will do in your particular chamber. What you want to try and do is prepare a case like I have here, where you've got slots in the neck of the case. Then you just slide a bullet in there. Okay. Okay, what you want to do is seat the bullet into this case that's got the slotted neck. Insert it in your rifle. Close the bolt. Open it up. Now you need to open it carefully. You don't want your round dragging on the side with your extractor trying to pull it out. You want to carefully pull it out and make a measurement of this thing. That'll show you the exact point that the bullet contacts the rifling. You want to make your hand loads exactly like that, or slightly shorter. Take it out and install it on your gauge. What you want to do is rotate it very slightly, making sure the case is square on the platform. Hit your 0 button. Now the gauge will remember exactly how far your bullet is back from the rifle. Another nice thing about this tool is that it measures all calibers. It's not limited to just doing one particular caliber. It'll do anything that has a shoulder on it. It doesn't require any bushings. There's no fittings, attachments, or anything required. It comes complete just as you see it. And there's no need to, like I say, no need to locate the datum line. You don't need to take your rifle apart to use it. Just take a fired case and it represents your chamber perfectly, and you don't have to balance your case on calipers to try and get a good reading. This thing just sets your cases right down on the base and you're good to go. Like I said, the purpose of this gauge is to measure the clearance at the shoulder that your hand loads have in your particular chamber. Okay, if you wind up having a flashing display, the gauge is trying to tell you that your battery is weak and you need to replace it. All you have to do to replace the battery is to remove this hatch right here. There's 2 of them on top of the gauge. There's one on this side and one over here. You want to take off the larger hatch just by popping it open with a small screwdriver. It rotates right out. Taking out the battery, it's oriented in this little holder with the positive side facing up. Other batteries that will work in this unit, as long as they're 1.5 volts, they'll work fine. The number of those batteries are, you can use the LR44, the number 357, or the A76. All those batteries are exactly the same thing. To reinstall the battery, just drop the battery in place, snap it in. You're all set. That's all there is to changing the battery.